I'm not gonna lie, many people will be pissed off that I'm making this video because they just simply won't believe me that we actually did help Brian make over 20K in just 32 days with trauma healing coaching. I mean, have you ever heard about trauma healing coaching? Probably not. And you probably have never seen a case study like this where someone actually made over 20K in just 32 days with trauma healing coaching. Now, in this video, I'll go over the 3 exact steps that we helped Brian take in order to get there and how he actually built a real business around his content instead of his, just content being his business or something, what people call it, because a lot of creators, coaches actually just make content. They never actually have a real business. So first we will be going over the core business audit that we did for him, then the launch timeline, and thirdly we will be going over the 21K plus funnel. So let's start at the beginning. Here's how we built Brian a real business around his content instead of his content being the business, and how he now actually profits off his content creation skills instead of just racking up millions of views without making any cash. For a little social proof, just sprinkled in here, you can see a Stripe screenshot and also a screenshot of me and Brian on a call, on a meeting, planning the launch. And Brian's Instagram, if you want, go and follow him, leave a couple of likes and, support our work. But let's just hop right into it, the core business audit. In the core business audit, what we actually did, we figured out what offer would work best for Brian's audience. Now, you see that Brian was already making pretty specific content. He was making content for people who have been in relationships with narcissistic people and who have been abused by them. So in this stage, we figured out the current situation of the people he was speaking to, the desired situation, the roadblocks, demographics, and struggles. We did that by IG stories, by using the IG demographics, and we also asked people directly to articulate their own struggles so that we can use their own words to speak to them in the messaging later on. So this is what got us the offer alchemy table. We first outlined the current state, the desired state, the tried methods and effectiveness, and the main pain points. Now you have to be very careful that in the current state, there are multiple stages even to this particular topic, because there could be people who are still in relationships with narcissistic people, and there could be others who have left the relationship but still struggle with the trauma and healing from that. So it actually turned out to be the case that most people were the latter. So they were in a relationship with a narcissistic person, but not anymore, but they struggled to heal from them. So our offer statement became, I help narcissistic abuse survivors 100% move on and heal with the Breakthrough Paradigm Protocol in 30 days. So taking this offer statement, taking the learnings from all of the stories and the well-structured market research and offer alchemy, we put together a full launch timeline. Now you have to be very clear that most coaches, most people when they launch a coaching offer, they don't have a timeline like this. They just post one story, more specifically it's probably a story like this one, outlining who this is for and what the offer is about, the offer statement, and then that's it. And they have a CTA, call to action. And don't get me wrong, it's a very good strategy, but it's just one step in the process. It's not everything, and it's not the beginning to the end. Because as you can see, we had a 10-day launch. So it was a 10-day planned out day by day. Every day we posted a story and a post. So we started with the initial story. This was just a hype story. Then we continued it with sprinkling some hype, some teasing. First, obviously, we whispered. Then we teased that something is coming, a new launch, a new offering, a new coaching is coming. And then thirdly, we shouted at the last 1-2 days. And the shouting actually ended with the IG launch sequence when we finally released the coaching to the audience, to the public, and anyone who was interested. So as you can see, we used these first 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days to prepare the launch. And then we used the second 4 days, no, actually it's 5 days, the second 5 days to launch the product itself. So we didn't just post one story. We posted a hell of a ton of stories. So you can see it's about 10 stories. And every single day, we did not always pitched the audience. We sometimes just teased, just whispered what's coming, and we did the same with the posts as well. So most of the posts did not include a tease to the specific thing, but they allowed us to gather leads with lead magnets like the sales letter, like the VSL, like the 10 strategies to get over a narcissist. And then the crucial part in the reels and the posts was the power offer reel. This is essentially what got us the most DMs, the most amount of leads, hard leads, because these people already knew that they wanted to engage in coaching. They didn't have to be convinced. They didn't have to be taken from problem aware to solution aware. No, they already knew what they were there for, and they essentially just had to be led to the booking form where they booked the call. So this is how we got most of our leads. I'm not going to show you this one in specific. It's a very separate video, and it's also for private clients. Now, we already went over what stories we posted and what posts we posted. So let's take a look at an actual story sequence. Most people who post about IG stories never actually go into the details how to construct one, and they never show you actual examples of story sequences. So here you go. So you start with the offer, letting people know what this will be about. It's very clear. So after a brief introduction, you have the offer statement, and then you have a CTA to keep scrolling. Next story, it's who it's for and the benefits. So the benefits of the product, the benefits of the coaching, because people don't care about your mechanisms. People care about the benefits that you give them, the transformation that that you allow them. So it's very evident. Most people never actually get it, but that's what you do in this one. And then the next one you use for proof, because if you don't have proof behind your words, if you don't have credentials, if you have not helped hundreds of or countless people before the person who you are talking to, why should they believe you? Then you're at the stage where you should be giving your service for free and not charging for it. So this is exactly why we had the proof part over here. And then the fourth one is the clear CTA to DM, send a direct message, which in this case was the peace keyword. And then obviously also adding scarcity, that we're only opening up 10 spots for the coaching. This is not a coaching that is unlimited. This is not a coaching that everyone can have. This is a coaching for the most committed people. And even though it's something accessible to everyone, we know exactly that we will not be taking everyone and anyone, because just because they give us money, if we can't help them, we will never get the testimonials, we will never get the case studies. So we just have to unfortunately reject them, even if that costs us a little bit money up front. So let's hop into the emails. Obviously, Brian has a huge email subscriber list, over 3,000 people with an average open rate of 40%, which is amazing. Most people don't have that. So this is exactly what we implemented for the emails. We first started with the tease method. So we first teased with coming soon. Something is coming soon. Something will happen, and you should be looking out for it. And then obviously we whispered, and then we shouted, your turn to break free, time sensitive. So this is it for the launch timeline. This is what we posted, this is what we laid out, and this is what got us the most amount of leads possible in the shortest amount of time while we launched the product. Now obviously I have to add to it that we're still getting leads, we still have processes and systems set up. So let's get to that right now, the 21K plus funnel. Because although you can post a couple of things, if you don't have a clear system, a clear process behind everything, then at the end of the day, you will launch once and then you will have inconsistent income. A lot of coaches have this problem, so let me dive straight into the 21K funnel and how you, as someone who wants to make money online, can utilize this funnel. So this funnel is a short form funnel based on Instagram. This does not include long form assets, long form assets that you have to spend time, energy, and resources on. This is simply a funnel that starts at Instagram, and that's basically it. There aren't long YouTube videos, only from Brian's Instagram. So there are a couple of places that people can go to from the Instagram itself. First one would be Brian's feed. Then obviously Brian's stories, where we would be posting the story sequences. And then Brian's bio, where we had a Brian's landing page. It's not there anymore, but it was there at the time of the launch. So let's start with the landing page. It's the simplest one, and then we'll go to the story sequences and then Brian's posts and reels, obviously. So starting with the landing page, you can see clearly that it outlines the offer. So what's the starting point? Where do people get? What's the transformation that we're selling? And in what timeline? Additionally, it includes Brian's accolades, so his credentials. He's a certified practitioner in integrative psychology. Now you see a couple of data points over here. Before I get into those, let me quickly compare the DM qualification and the landing page. So essentially people had two options to get to the booking page. First, they could go straight through Brian's bio link. That means that they did not converse with us, with Brian, on Instagram before clicking the link and booking a call. And another option was for them to opt in for a lead magnet or go through a story sequence where they DM us piece and go through the more direct way, or go through the nurture indirect way where they open up a lead magnet and then get qualified through the DMs that way. So these were the two main ways that they could get to the qualification questionnaire. And we found that the DMs outperformed the landing page funnel by at least 2.5x performance, which is huge because it did not only mean higher conversion rates, higher close rates, but it also meant higher show-up rates. So here the no-show rate was over almost 30%. And while in the DMs, it was only 8. And then the qualified closing rate was over 40% here, while only 20% in the other case, in the landing pages case. So the closes also severely differed. And another big thing that differed between those two was the revenue collected, because the DM qualification had a multiple on the revenue collected compared to the landing page, which is huge. So with that being established, let me show you exactly how we booked people in with no more than 3 messages sent. So people can get to the DMs in two main ways. They can either watch Brian's story and get to the story sequence where they have CTA like this. So DM me the word peace, they DM the word peace, and then the DM qualification is initiated. The second way is for them to opt in for lead magnet, then get led to the DMs where we also collect, by the way, their email and get them to the newsletter. And then from the lead magnet on, we DM them and then we qualify them in the DMs. So in this particular instance, we actually had someone opt in for a lead magnet, and then we asked them what actually made them want to learn about healing trauma specifically. Now watch how this is not only a starting message, but it also sets the frame early. So it sets the frame, establishes what this conversation will be about. It also asks about the current situation so that we can go ahead in the sale and take a step forward. Then after the answer, we inquire about the goal and the desired situation. We still maintain the frame. So I hear you. What are you hoping to achieve by learning more? Maybe I can help you find something that works. It's incredibly important that first we acknowledge, then we, ask about the next step in the sale, which is the goal, the desired state, and then we add a frame with maybe I can help you find something that works. The sentence is already incepting the idea in the prospect's mind that Brian can help them. This already shows them that Brian is someone who could possibly help them. This also means that we set the frame and then the prospect will almost ask for the call themselves once they realize that they need some help. All right, so the next message is, it's a process that doesn't happen overnight. You're right. What have you tried so far to make progress on your healing journey so far? Here we are trying to look for dead bodies, so things that they have already tried but did not work. We don't want to offer them something in our offering, in our messaging that did not work for them. So we have to know, it's essential that we know what they have tried so far. If they maybe have tried something very similar to what we are offering, then handle the objection beforehand. Maybe ask them about, do you know why that didn't work? Was it maybe the therapist that wasn't the right one? And then they can realize that, oh yeah, the therapist just wasn't that great. And then you can continue with, okay, so if you had like a better therapist who could connect with you on this particular topic, then would that be helpful? And then you can take the next step in the sale, and then you have that concern/objection handled. So once we have the dead bodies, then we know where they are stuck. So what kept them stuck for so long? And then we can also extract the pain of inaction. So set the consequences of them not taking action right now. Now, this was the second message, as you can see. And then the third message is, I hear you. My own journey was not too dissimilar to yours. Would you like to discuss this on a shortcut? See if the way I help people would make sense for you. Maybe I can give you some insights that help me. So this is proposing the call extremely early. So we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to assume that we can help them. We have only asked like 2 questions before. So we don't want to assume too much. But we want to set the frame right so that Brian is the expert here. And if they have a problem, then they can come to Brian. And then from there, obviously, she agrees. And then we have booked the call on December 9th at 2 p.m. There we go. So this is the DM qualification. This is how you do it. This is how you book a call in only 3 messages sent. Why do I say 3, by the way? It's because this one is ManyChat automated. There we go. It's ManyChat automated. So with the DM qualification being done, let's get to the newsletter. Let's get to the juicy part, because whenever someone opts in for a lead magnet, so we have 3 main lead magnets, you can see them over here, then we collect their email, they get a welcome sequence immediately where they get sent the lead magnet again, and they get added to the email newsletter. The email newsletter has essentially 2 ways that it can lead people to the booking form. So get people to book a call, get people to take the next step. While we also send them value emails, we have the direct call to action and we have the indirect link. So the direct call to action is something like this. It's a very short email. You can see here. So last day, last chance. The only point of this email, it's not to give value. It's to get people to click here. That's all. And give them a little bit of context, what that would mean for them if they click there. And then the second one is the indirect link, which is at the end of every single value email. If someone wants to apply, if someone wants to, take the next step, then they have the option. It's just apply to work with me over here. And this leads people to the qualification questionnaire. As you can see, most people, a lot of coaches have their application forms on different sites at different places. But our application form is the exact same thing for every single person. That's what a funnel is, by the way. So you're funneling everyone into one place. So what happens in the qualification questionnaire? First, we get their data, their info, then we qualify them financially, then we qualify them in their time zone, and again, also financially, because people from Africa and Asia are much less likely to have the money, have the financial means to be able to afford the coaching. And then we find out their current state, and then we find out their pain. By finding out their pain, we also preface the sales call, and we make it easier for Brian to close these people on the call instead of, digging around in their past, digging around in their pain, and trying to find something that would, that Brian can help them with. All right, so once that's figured out, then we just ask them, important. If it was guaranteed you'd make significant improvements mentally and emotionally and resolve what has been keeping you stuck, how much would you be willing to invest in yourself to achieve this over the next 3 to 6 months? Pay close attention how we phrase this sentence. It's by no means an accident that we asked them if it was guaranteed you'd make significant improvements, how much would you be willing to invest in yourself to achieve this over the next 3 to 6 months. So they stop worrying if, Brian could actually help them, because here we are not really looking to, convince them at all. We're just looking to get a confirmation from them that they have the money available, have the investment that they could make, and are not just completely broke and can't afford anything. So this is the last question that we do. And obviously this is disqualified. You are disqualified if you choose the last one, but every single other version is fine. Now from the qualification questionnaire, if someone is disqualified, they get led to the disqualified page. Here again, we point out why they were disqualified. You can just pause the video here. And also importantly, if someone was qualified by mistake, maybe they have the money, they just did not understand the question itself, then they have the opportunity to, if you believe this was a mistake, please send me an Instagram DM and I will contact you. So this is the messaging, and also additionally to that, we DM every single person that has filled out the form and get an extra confirmation from them if, maybe they just were looking for something that was worth it to them. Maybe they did not know that they had to choose the second option over here, although they have the money and they would be completely fine paying that. So we just DM people to not lose out on those leads. But essentially from here, people get to the booking page, which includes sales call framing, because we're telling people that this is an application call. This is not a free consultation like most people do. This is an application call. This is something that they have to keep in mind. So we maintain the frame. Then from the booking page, they get to the thank you page, then the pre-call sequence, and then the sales call, and then if we're good enough, then a new client. So let's break down each of them. On the thank you page, we call them out. We call them out that they should block their time on their calendar like this. And then we get them to watch a testimonial interview so that they get educated, more qualified, and more ready to buy than they were before. Then in the pre-call sequence, we have 5 emails. The fifth one is a 24-hour reminder. The first one is to confirm the appointment. First, we get their commitment with, asking them to reply with yes. Then we again ask them to block their time in the calendar by accepting the Google Calendar event invite. Then we send them a case study, actually an interview, where we first start with relatability. Before our call, I wanted to share Paul's story with you. We want to share a story with them that's similar to theirs. So the perceived likelihood that Brian can help them increases with this email. And after that, we have a 1 hour and a 15-minute very generic reminder. But the very important part here as well is that we call people out to not be distracted on the call. So be in a quiet place and preferably on the desktop, because a distracted person is not a person ready to buy, and it will lose you a lot of sales, a lot of leads. Then in the pre-call sequence, we have also included the canceled call sequence and procedure. So if anyone cancels, they still stay in the loop. And now to everyone's favorite part, the sales call. We first start with systems, which we have laid out in our school community, because systems reduce friction, and friction reduced is a higher close rate. Here you can see that we have not only systems implemented for follow-up, but also post-call nurturing, taking payments, closing the deal, and everything alike. The last thing that you want to have is during the sales call looking for a way to process the payment. Maybe, the payment processor doesn't work in their country, or whatever the case is. You don't want to be stumbling around and being uncertain as to the next step. Because if you're uncertain about the next step, then you can be sure as hell that your prospect will also be uncertain about the next step. So you don't want that to happen. Now, a lot of people also ask me what they even should track on sales calls. So here are 2 key metrics that you have to track in order to be able to determine if your problem is marketing-wise or sales-wise. This means that if you're not closing enough deals, you have to determine if your problem is a marketing problem or if it is a sales problem. If you have enough qualified calls, if your qualification rate is high enough, so above 80%, depending on where you're booking your calls from, but ours was around 90%. If your qualification rate is high, then you don't have a marketing problem, because the sole job of marketing is to get qualified people on the calendar. Now, if your qualified closing rate is high as well, so above 30%, then you also don't really have a sales problem. But let's say that your qualified closing rate is lower than ours, because 33% is standard, but let's say that it's 15%, let's say that it's 20%. Then you have a sales problem. Then you have to go over the scripts, then you have to get sales coaching, then you have to watch a couple more courses, because that means that you have a problem in the sales calls themselves. Or it could also mean that your sales process is a little bit messy, people don't understand it, and even though your sales calls are pretty good and alright, your sales process, your systems, as we've talked over here, are just insufficient to close enough deals. So those are the 2 main metrics that you have to track. Now, obviously you can see our data over here, you can pause the video. This is sort of what we closed and what the closing rate was. This was, by the way, for both IG DMs and IG link in bio bookings. So obviously the no-show rate is different for those 2, but this is the aggregate. This is for both of them at the same time. Now you also might be asking, but what happens if someone does not close on the sales call? Well, evidently then we have a follow-up SOP. And many coaches get offended if people don't buy on the first call, which is the wrong attitude to have. Because if you get offended and you are anxious to close people on the first call, especially in the first 45 minutes, then people will feel that. people will know exactly what you want to do. People will know that you just want to sell them. You're not there to actually have them, you just want to sell them. And there's no problem with that. But if you have a good follow-up SOP, then you won't have this pressure, because you will know exactly that even if you don't close them, you have a next step. So you have a next step. You can book in a call for later today or for tomorrow or as early as possible, because you also don't want people to think too much, to get cold feet, to disengage. And because at the end of the day, prospects will never like convince themselves in like 3 weeks. It's very rare for that to happen. So just don't let them off the hook. But if you have a good follow-up SOP, I promise you that will not happen. If you want a follow-up SOP, by the way, then just book a call below. I mean, I can just literally give you our follow-up SOP if you want me to. So, but if you've done everything correctly so far, then you have a new client. Congratulations. This is exactly what we did. And this is the exact process that, by the way, we're not just implementing for Brian and not just making him 21K in 32 days, but for all of our clients. So if you've learned anything new in this video and you want us to go over your client acquisition system and possibly implement a couple of these strategies that you see over here, see the exact details behind the launch timeline, see the exact details behind the 21K funnel, and also whom you can hire to take everything to the next level, then our website is the first link below. It's Heide Media, and just go there, book a call. I promise you, this is just a discovery call. This is not a hard sell. It's literally just you and me going over your client acquisition system and talking about if there could be an opportunity to work together, or what sort of methods you are not using, what sort of methods you could optimize. So if you're an online coach, do that. If not, it's also perfectly fine. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day.